Welcome back. It's now time to go in depth. A lot is being said about legalizing marijuana in the Caribbean, whether it's for medicinal purposes or recreational purposes. And a big part of the argument is the economic impact of this potential industry. So tonight, we're taking a look at the business of marijuana. On the phone are attorney Miguel Lorne, who's a Jamaican advocate for ganja decriminalisation, and also Blaine Dowdle, CEO of MedCannAccess, a medical marijuana company based in Toronto, Canada. Welcome, gentlemen.
Greetings and blessings. Thanks for having us. And
thanks for having us.
Well, first of all, Miguel, there was a major forum in Jamaica this past weekend. What was that about?
The forum was on Saturday at the University of the West Indies. And the importance of that forum was to bring some of the stakeholders together to more or less seek now to chart a course for the future. And in charting that course, we're looking at the different persons that are involved, government, different aspects of government, Ganja Growers Association, users, practitioners, different aspects, those who use it for medicinal and healing purposes, those who use it for religious, cultural, and spiritual purposes, and so on. And we want to bring the different stakeholders together that in planning a course for the future, that the small farmers, the humble people, are not left out. Because the way this thing is shaping up, we see where we certainly want the economics and we want the business aspects, but we don't want, because persons have large amounts of money to invest, the millions, and by that way now it pushes out the little small man who has been suffering on his hillside, farming his little 2-3 acres at great risk.
Well, we're going to come back to that point about small and medium enterprises and growers. But Blaine, you also attended the forum and you in fact made a presentation on behalf of your company, MedCannAccess. What's your company's story?
Okay, well, in Canada we've recently, we've had a medical marijuana program for about 13 years now. There was former regulations which were not very conducive to a business actually operating. It was very much for patients to supply themselves. And now the government has changed the regulations. They made it so that there's specific companies that will produce and distribute medical marijuana. And unfortunately, they have taken it away from the patients. So that's one of the things that we didn't support in the change. But we were encouraged by the ability to actually become a proper industry. And then also within that change in the framework, we were given the ability to import and export, which really creates a proper business model.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that part of the developments, but your company has not been approved yet. You've applied for approval.
Yes, we're still in the approval process. We are quite a long way along. We've actually had our facility inspected and it's been approved for security and the like. But the security clearance for the entire staff is still being checked through. We do have a number of people, obviously, and it takes quite a while. I'm imagining it's an in-depth security screening. So we're anticipating any day. Feedback we get from the government is any day we should be hearing from them. So.
Okay, we'll look out to hear. Now, Miguel, one of the results of the forum on Saturday is a push towards establishing a future Ganja Growers and Producers Association. You mentioned them. But we all know that there are well-established ganja growers and producers, not in the future, but current. So is this an organization to protect people who are engaged in what is now a criminal enterprise?
When you're talking about ganja, you can't use the word criminal, you know. I know what you mean, but certainly, because you think of gunmen and scammers and cocaine, you know, if you call those criminal, you really can't call ganja criminal. I'll tell you why. I learned a lot on Saturday myself when I heard of some of the things that are happening in terms of using ganja to cure the amount of illnesses, ailments. You know, some of them are serious diseases that have afflicted persons that are now being cured. You know, we want people to understand different strains of ganja is being produced. Some with a high content of THC, some with low content, so as to facilitate using it with children and things of that nature. So, you know, it is in that light. But persons who are growing it now, we want everything to come out in the open. We want those persons to be given license, and they are given a quota. And the whole idea is to regulate, control. Naturally, the government will tax it, and they too will benefit. The country on a whole will benefit. And the farmers now will be able to benefit in a much legitimate way. So we think that in a cleaner atmosphere, everyone will be able to progress for the future.
Mm-hmm. Now, Blaine, you started telling us about the Canadian system where the laws on growing marijuana for medical purposes were liberalized just a few months ago. What has that change actually meant for the market in Canada?
Okay, well, as I said, we have had a legit legal medical marijuana system for 13 years. So in that time, there's been 50,000 people which have now been authorized to use medical marijuana. So there's a sizable amount of people who currently need access to cannabis, and the industry is gearing up to supply that. If you look at the way the patient growth has happened over the past 4 years, it's pretty much doubled every year. So we're still projecting fairly close growth to that over the next 3 to 4 years, where at the end of a 10-year period, actually the government itself is projecting that this will become a $1.2 billion industry, just medical marijuana alone.
You said the number of patients using medical marijuana has doubled every year. That's what you said?
For the past 4 years.
For the past 4 years. Yep. Why is that? Is it because of the loosening of restrictions, changing of attitudes? What?
It's a combination of things. The regulations didn't change at all. But one thing that did happen is it's kind of reaching more of a critical mass. In the early days, physicians would try it with very extreme patients, the ones that were at the end of their rope, and, kind of last resort type of treatment. And I think what happened was they started to see good results. So they started to be more willing to try it with more patients, and then they told other physicians. And then what's kind of happened is just through a natural, the natural experience of the physicians has led them to become more comfortable with recommending it for patients. Mm-hmm. And then that's led us to a situation now where every year, just like it's like the he told two friends, she told two friends kind of thing, and it is really increasing. Mainly through word of mouth. There's no educational programs for physicians. There's no real effective lobby or marketing to physicians to make them sign for people. It really is just their change in attitude.
Interesting. Now, Miguel, earlier you were mentioning your fear of small and medium-sized Jamaican growers being ostracized if and when the market becomes liberalized in Jamaica. You're actually recommending that only small and medium growers be allowed to grow in the first 5 years. Is that fair, and would that prohibit competition with larger markets that are using technology to produce their strains of marijuana?
No, but what would happen now is that, let's say, for example, a man gets a license to supply 100 pounds of ganja, and let us say he is not able himself to grow that 100 pounds. He might be able to grow 50 pounds, but he could sublet or sub-license to 1 or 2 or 3 of his brethren, who would then put together the shortfall that he's not able to meet. So by that way, we guarantee the small man. In terms of growing, and we recognize that certainly in terms of medicinal aspects and the healing aspects, even the small man will have to partner with some of the more professional persons. Mm-hmm. You know, you're going to need doctors and so on.
Miguel, we lost you? Okay, Blaine, you still there? We lost both of our guests at the same time. That's unusual. There must be some type of issue with our phone lines. And, well...
Hello?
Blaine, okay.
I can still hear you.
Okay, good. I thought we lost you as well. Well, one thing I wanted to know, I'm interested, what's your company's interest in Jamaica? Are you looking to invest here? Are you checking out the local produce, the competition? What's MedCannAccess doing in Jamaica?
Well, we were here. There's a fellow named Courtney Betty who's been laying some groundwork around this down here. We've kind of been working along with him to try and explore what the opportunities are in Jamaica. For us, we see it really, in the Canadian market, to produce medical marijuana is a very expensive process. It's indoors, it's all grown under lights, which is very expensive to produce. The majority of people that use it are on disability, so they are not necessarily high-income people. And medical cannabis in Canada costs about $8 a gram on average. So if you're able to grow outdoors in Jamaica, the costs for producing that medical marijuana should come down substantially. And that would be a benefit for the patients in Canada who can barely afford their medicine, but then it also creates a benefit for the farmers in Jamaica. For us, we would love to invest in research and development in Jamaica, but my personal view is that it needs to really be given to the farmers. It is still kind of not a full-blown industry. It can't take every product that is produced out of Jamaica. So I feel it's a very wise idea to move forward in a way that production will kind of be a naturally organic growth in the amount that's produced. There's many advantages to that. Along the way, you're able to adjust course to make sure that any of your techniques for production are optimized, and you're also able to make sure that you don't end up in a situation where you overproduce and then end up with a product that can't be sold. So I think it's a very measured approach to go that way, and then it does create the opportunities on the ground for entrepreneurs, for people in the industry already, for Jamaicans really to get involved and reap the economic benefits that this can provide.
All right, I want to thank you, Blaine, for telling your story.
Oh, thank you for having me on, and thank you for having such a wonderful island and for considering the potential reform.
All right, great. Blaine Dowdle, CEO of MedCannAccess, that's a medical marijuana company based in Toronto, Canada. Earlier, we were joined by attorney Miguel Lorne, who's an advocate for ganja decriminalisation in Jamaica. That's it for In Depth. Stay tuned. After the break, it's time for sports.